We're joined now by Tselane, Chairperson of the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa. And Tselane, always a pleasure to speak to you. Let's talk a little bit now about the app options that are possibly available for the IEC at this point going forward. I mean, what are they looking at right now? We understand that they are convening meetings just to discuss the way forward. What could that way forward actually look like?
Well, essentially, they've got to look at the implications of the order from the Constitutional Court. Now, that order basically says the Electoral Commission must keep intact the current election timetable, but at the same time allow for amendments in order to be able to cater for voter registration, as well as the new date that is going to be proclaimed by the minister. Now, they've got to look very carefully in terms of what that implies, because there are different interpretations to what that particular section says in the order that the Constitutional Court has actually given. So they're going to have to sit and try to get a legal opinion and try to see as to whether what it says, it's actually what we think it says. Because from my interpretation of reading that particular aspect, it means the Commission must keep intact the election timetable which was issued on the 4th of August 2021. Now, what does that entail? That election timetable contained various milestones, but the only two milestones that had already been achieved was that of the voters' roll, the closing of the voters' roll, as well as that of the candidate nomination process. Now, if the Electoral Court, or rather the Constitutional Court, wanted to nullify the other processes that have already taken place, they could have easily said that the election timetable is declared invalid, but they did not say so, unlike in a situation where they declared the proclamation by the minister to be invalid. But particularly when it comes to the election timetable, they have said that the election timetable as issued on the 4th of, published on the 4th of August remains intact. So we've got to search further and try to find out what is it that the Constitutional Court is keeping. Because if they wanted to nullify, like I'm saying, they could have nullified even the candidate nomination process, but they did not do so. Instead, the only thing that they have actually proclaimed on, or rather that they've expressed themselves on, it's on the issue of voter registration. So if you've got only two aspects that have already been achieved, and then all other aspects are subject to changes as a result of the possible new proclamation by the minister, as well as by the voter registration, it means you are left in that election timetable with only one aspect. Then that one aspect that was already achieved, that the Constitutional Court did not say must be removed or nullified, is the candidate nomination process.
So then in that case, does that mean, as you're saying, that it's all open for interpretation as it is, does that mean in simple English that we could find ourselves, or the IEC could find itself buckling under the pressure to reopen the candidate nomination list to allow, for example, the ANC, which we know has been leading the charge there for the reopening of this candidate nomination list to allow for more candidates to be included? Does it make for concession for such?
Well, if they interpret it to mean that the whole election timetable has been nullified, then that would be the import of that. But like I'm saying, the Constitutional Court wanted the candidate nomination process to be nullified. Basically, they would have said so. And the fact that they have taken only one aspect from the election timetable, which is that of voter registration, it means it was important for the Constitutional Court to allow for voter registration. If the Constitutional Court wanted to allow for the resubmission of lists by political parties, they could have said so. But instead of saying so, they have said the election timetable that was issued on the 4th of August remains intact, and that the Electoral Commission can then do the reasonable adjustments based on, firstly, the fact that now voter registration can possibly still take place. The IEC still has to check as to whether it is possible to have a registration weekend. And then if they so believe, then there will be a voter registration process. That in itself then begin to allow for the amendment of other aspects that are still remaining. And also the fact that the minister has got a period within which she can maneuver. Firstly, she can declare the results, rather the elections, on the 27th of October, as she had previously done. But also, she could also do it either on the 28th, on the 29th, on the 30th. That would have implications for the election timetable. So the IEC might therefore want to look, for instance, some of the aspects that would be there in the election table, which would be the special votes. When will the special votes take place? Special votes normally take place 2 days before the elections, where the voting stations are opened and then people are able to visit also homes for those people who would have applied. And all those aspects then can kick in. So those are subject to changes. But like I have said, in my own interpretation, if the Constitutional Court wanted the candidate nomination process to start again, they would have said so when they were saying the registration of voters must be looked into. But also, as I've suggested, the fact that there is a clear aspect that has been covered by the Constitutional Court that says the election timetable as issued or published on the 4th of August remains intact. You've got to check firstly, what are the aspects that remain intact that are not subject to changes as a result of the new provision of the new election date that has got to be proclaimed by the minister, as well as the fact that the registration now has actually been moved forward.
Well then, Terry, for political parties such as the African National Congress, which was, as I said, the one that was championing for the reopening of these candidate nomination lists, what options then are left available for the ruling party in this case?
Well, the ANC had gone to the Electoral Court to deal specifically with this issue. And then they decided to withdraw the case from the Electoral Court. So I'm not too sure what the next move would be, but it will be dependent largely on what the Commission does. But what the Commission does as well has got implication for all sorts of political parties, because what the Commission needs to do as well is to go to the Party Liaison Committee and renegotiate the new election timetable, because Section 11 of the Municipal Electoral Act still requires the Commission to consult with the National Party Liaison Committees before they issue an election timetable. So it's going to be interesting how they navigate this complex area, but also how other political parties are also going to be reacting to whatever move that the Electoral Commission is going to be taking.
Well, certainly the political waters are shaky. Terry Tselane, we'll leave it there for this evening, Chairperson of the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa.